Today, we're going to take a look at Warzone with the enhanced graphics high resolution pack on the PlayStation 5 and see how it compares up against the PlayStation 4 Warzone edition. What is up, guys? My name is Nick and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the all-new PlayStation 5 graphics, the 3D audio, the controller, every single thing about Warzone. Is it better on the PlayStation 5? Now first I have to say, currently on the PlayStation 5 we're playing a backwards compatible version of Warzone. We're playing a PlayStation 4 version of Warzone over on the PS5, but it's not to say that within a couple of weeks, maybe months, we will be getting a Warzone dedicated to the PlayStation 5. But in the time being, how does Warzone stand up against the PS4 on this console right here? Now, I will say there are a lot of things that I definitely noticed right away when jumping into the game, but we're going to talk first about everything like load-in times, details at distance. Does it look good, or does it still look like everything is melting over 100 meters away? Because like, did the buildings look horrible on the PlayStation 4? We're going to talk about the graphics and frame rate, 3D audio, and the controller. Now, let's get into the first thing you guys need to know. So the PlayStation 5 comes at a native 4K resolution, which most likely, or they do say, is able to hold 120 frames per second, which is insane. But on Warzone, that's not the case. Warzone, we're playing a backwards compatible version, so we're playing the highest res the PlayStation 4 is capable of giving us for this game right here. So don't expect to play 4K 120 FPS. I think we're locked at 60 FPS still, but once we get Warzone built for this console, it's going to change. We should be able to play, hopefully, at 2160 at 60 frames per second, or at 1440 for the resolution at 120 frames per second, or even as low as 1080 at 120 frames per second. Even with a lower resolution, it's much better to have a higher FPS in my opinion. Now, the load-in times, this is something I feel like we really need to look at, because it kind of shows you how good having an SSD card in the PlayStation 5 is better than having a regular hard disk drive in the PlayStation 4. So on average, I was playing solo with crossplay off, and with the PlayStation 5, it took me roughly 15 to 18 seconds to load into a game of Warzone, which is a huge difference compared to the PlayStation 4, where I think the fastest load-in I had was 24 seconds, and the highest I had was 28 seconds. So that's like an 8 or 10, even 12 second difference right there in load-in times, which might not mean a lot in Warzone, because Warzone, it doesn't matter, you load in, everyone loads into the plane at the same time, but it does make a huge difference in multiplayer games where you could pick your class, you don't have to worry about joining in after the countdown is already done, so that's already a huge difference right there. Now, the details at a distance, I should say. You guys need to look at the background right now. This is the PlayStation 4. It looks a little blurry the further the distance is. It actually loaded quite a few textures. I was surprised when I was doing this test. Normally, when I look out 2,000 meters into the distance, everything looks like sludge. In this one right now, it actually didn't do a bad job, and I think that's because I have a fairly new PlayStation 4. It's not even 2 months old yet, so it was able to do what I had to do. Now, on the PlayStation 5, this is where you guys notice a gigantic difference. It actually shows you everything in near perfect detail at 2,000 meters away. So that is gigantic. That's huge. And I noticed when playing this game, when I am actually shooting at people 200-300 meters away, I'm not losing them. I'm not losing them in my sight or anything like that. They look very clear. I'm able to spot them. Whereas on the PlayStation 4, I kind of lose them in the background. I can't really make out if it's them or not, because the graphics just don't load in perfectly. So that right there is definitely something you need to take a look at. Now, I will also say, when driving a vehicle, maybe, I don't think anyone's really spoken about this, but on the PlayStation 4, when you're driving a vehicle and you look out to the side, it looks a little fuzzy, it looks a little shaky. If you look in the doorway right here, guys, you can't really tell if there's an enemy in there or not. It's a little too fuzzy, a little too blurry, shaky, whatever you want to call it. But on the PlayStation 5, driving here at the exact same spot, I was able to look, and it looked very steady. Everything looked very clear. I don't know if you could see that in the video. I obviously have to downgrade the video so it can match the PS4's, but you guys, I need to tell you, like, with your own eyes, if you get a PlayStation 5, you will notice a huge difference in the frame rate, the frames per second that you're getting, in the actual resolution of the game, in the steadiness, the clearness. There's like barely any fuzz whatsoever on the screen on the PlayStation 5. Whereas on the PlayStation 4, there's a bunch, and there's not much you could do about about it. And the last thing I noticed in terms of graphics is that the character details actually stick out a little more. You can actually tell who an enemy is at a distance. You won't mistake them for a tree, you won't mistake them for a rock or anything. You can actually tell what's what. So that's what I really like about the PlayStation 5. Now let's get on to talking about a field of view slider, because we might be getting one on the PS5 once we get a Warzone that's actually dedicated to this console. So field of view slider is going to be great, but that will actually take away some of the resolution and some of the frames per second. If you put the field of view slider all the way to 120, you might be maxed at 60 frames per second, which in my opinion, guys, that's not bad. That's really not bad whatsoever. I'd rather have a lower frame rate but a higher field of view, if that makes any sense. But I mean, 120 would be ideal. 120 frames per second with a 120 field of view slider, that would be ideal. I wish that would happen. Now, before we talk about the controller that actually helps you guys do a lot better in this game, like the controller is insane. It gives you accuracy. Like I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I want to talk about the 3D audio. So when playing Warzone normally on the PlayStation 4, I don't really hear enemy footsteps, and when I do, sometimes it just feels too late, or I don't know if they're above or below me, or sometimes I could tell if they're above, but then I'm like kind of confused on like, are they actually there or not? This is very different on the PlayStation 5, and I need to stress that I'm using the exact same headset with the exact same mix amp on both consoles. I'm using Astro A40s on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. Everything is hooked up exactly the same, but on the PlayStation 5 with 3D audio, which I'm not even using the headset that Sony made for 3D audio, I'm using a different third-party Astro A40 headset that is not made for the 3D audio that Sony designed, and you could actually hear everything, dude. Like, it's crazy. If someone is like coming up a staircase 10 floors below you and they make a loud noise or something, you're going to hear that, and you're going to be able to tell that they're actually many floors away and they're not right under you. So in my honest opinion, the audio makes a very huge difference in this game. It's very noticeable. You will hear literally everything exactly where it's coming from. So that's what I like, and I do hear a lot more footsteps now with this new audio system in place than I did with the actual PlayStation 4, so I got to give them that as well. Now I want to talk about the controller, because the controller actually helps you do a lot better, but I have to say before I talk about it, I do use Control Freaks, so that might have something to do with it, but I use Control Freaks on both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. If you guys don't know what Control Freaks are, they're little analog sticks that help you aim a lot better, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But I will say, if you guys want the new Cold War edition, which I'm using right now, they feel super grippy, they help you get those kills. You guys could, for a limited time only, use code IT'sNick15 and save yourself 15% on your purchases. So go ahead and do that. But let's talk about the actual controller. So the PS4 version, I play exactly the same. I have those joystick add-ons, which are Control Freaks, and on the PlayStation 5, I'm using the exact same one. They fit both controllers, so that's great. And I will say that it feels so much better on the PlayStation 5, and that might be because the analogs are new. I haven't really broken them in or anything, but I haven't noticed that with the PlayStation 4 that I just recently bought 2 months ago, using a brand new controller as well. I didn't notice what I noticed now. Now I know when I have my sensitivity at 14 on both consoles, my accuracy is so much more precise on the PlayStation 5. There's something about the controller. It's bigger than the actual controller for the PlayStation 4, but it just feels so much better, man. It's a lot better than that one. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video, guys. If you did enjoy it, make sure to drop a like on this one. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are not here with those notifications turned on. My name is Nick. Let me know what you guys think of the PlayStation 5, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.